Every story matters. That's at the core of everything I speak about. After more than 30 years of anchoring and reporting on radio and television stations throughout the country, I use story to engage people about identity, branding, personal growth, and marketing. Every single one of you, in whatever capacity you are in the electrical co-op in which you work or serve, has a story. And that story is going to be your asset. I hope we can find that out. Most of us have never been asked to craft our story. Who cares? What does it matter? Until you start watching a lot of television commercials. Have you seen the latest Verizon commercial? A phone is never shown in the entire commercial. They show someone who can't get their zipper up. They show someone who can't communicate with a sibling. They show someone who's angry about this. It's not working. Things aren't working. Verizon works. They tell this story that sucks me in because I know what it feels like for things not to work, and I don't like them not to work, and I want them to work, so maybe I should switch to Verizon. We have a lot of choices everywhere we turn, and more people are coming up to the surface and realizing that your story and how you tell it can often be that deciding factor. Every single person in this room can write a letter. I have no doubt whatsoever about that. And you probably have wonderful ideas in terms of how to communicate that. But it's getting out the door and making sure there's a way that you can almost ensure that people will read what you've written, will respond to what you've written, and hopefully will react and come back to you with a message that is positive or proactive. The first step in all of this is to know your voice. As Liz mentioned, I am a storyteller, and I ask the question when I do a series on telling stories, who are you? A lot of people don't really know who they are. They don't know certain things about themselves, about what allows them to communicate the way they do. And it is really essential to get a good grasp of who you are. What's your personality? Do you kick up your heels, or are you somebody that's a little more somber? Do you have a huge way of laughing, or do you really take everything much more seriously and want to be very methodical, step by step, in everything you do? I believe it's important that we know what our story is for one very clear reason. I want to be in charge of my story. I want to be the one to tell you who I am, and when I leave the room, the tale that goes behind me is the story that I have left with you. Now, you may not think it's important to have a story or to even know your story, and here lies the danger. You have it anyway. And I'm kind of a control freak, so I would like to be in control of my story and be able to tell my story in the way that I see fit. I want people to know that when I come out to speak that I'm going to deal with every story matters and how that changes everything. I don't want them to remember back to a really bad story I did a couple of years ago, so I will try to turn those things around. Not that I really did that was just for effect. But I'm just trying to say you want to control that. You want to present a story that will tell who you are or who your company is, and the only way you can do that is to come around to crafting that story, because that story is there. I think sometimes we think if we don't tell it, then it doesn't exist. That's not true. People don't connect with your success. They connect with your mess. If you're constantly pumping up the best parts of your story when you speak or when you meet somebody, you're pretty soon going to have people who say, I really, that's really good. I need to get some water for an hour and go away. It doesn't mean we sit there and grovel and tell of the worst things that have ever happened to us. But there has to be something in the middle where people feel we are relatable. Do what you love, because the long hours and what you all have to put up with and how you have to engage with and encourage and nurture, the only way that actually works is if you're doing what you love. So when you know who you are and how you got there, and you're doing what you love, your story actually flows out of those components. That's where it comes in. We all have it in us to tell memorable stories. We really do. There is no company, there is no person that foundationally doesn't have something extremely interesting about them to be able to share. One of the things is just being able to wrap your arms around that and put it in an order that you might want to tell somebody so that they would either want to buy your product, get to know you better, go have coffee, engage in further dialogue. Those are the reasons we want to tell stories and know our own story. I really believe that snapping new life into your writing has everything to do with you. It really is all about this personality of yours, this voice of yours that comes through in these emails and in these letters that you generate. And most of you are already doing this, and it's automatic, but it's kind of just a reminder to look through all of these steps as you put together knowing your voice, as you think through exactly what it is, why you're writing it in the first place. Would it have been better to go down the hall and talk to somebody prior to even putting all of this together? You know, realizing that you don't have to tell everybody everything, that you can consolidate, and that less is a lot more. Check your tone if you're upset or angry or really distracted to the point that you're going to say something that you will regret. And you may not think you'll regret it now, but you might. Have someone check it, or don't send it at all. Be personal, you know, and that comes with your voice. It comes with who you are. And some of us are more formal than others, and that's okay too, because then people will know that. And you can't fool. You know, on the first introductory letter you sent to somebody, you can totally fool them. You can actually send something out, and nobody will know if that's really you or not. But second, third, fourth, a phone call, a face-to-face, people start knowing who you are, and you can't fake them out anymore. So, and that's not the point anyway. If you want to get something done and get a response, then obviously you want to be real and be who you are. And then finally, proofread. And then do it all over again, every single time. If you can keep the framework of who you are and believe that, you know, go back and look at those things that are important to you. Look at where you came from. Look at what you love to do. And remember that it is not your success that people will focus on, but they want to know about your mess. And they don't want to know it so you can be scandalized. They want to know it so that they can relate to you. So if there's a way that in your co-op you can find a way to be relatable to those around you. It doesn't mean dropping yourself down and becoming the lowest common denominator, but it does mean relating to those around you, because that's the only way people will listen to your story. Every story matters, and sharing yours does change everything. Thank you so much for coming out this afternoon.